Myanmar's detained opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been handed a second criminal charge, which could see her held indefinitely without trial. The former civilian leader was deposed in a military coup earlier this month. Today, the UN warned the country's generals that the world was watching. We're joined now by Christine Burgener. She's the United Nations Special Envoy on Myanmar, who gave that warning to the generals and who has been in contact with them. Thank you very much for being with us. So you've been speaking, I gather, to So Win, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief in Myanmar. What did you say to him?
Well, I said that they should refrain of violence and that they should allow peaceful assemblies, and that we don't want to see breaking out of huge violence, that the coup was illegal, and we want to reverse the situation and upholding the will of the people of Myanmar.
Right. And did he have anything to say to you that reassured you?
Well, I asked him if I can come to Myanmar as quickly as possible. Normally, I just go and we arrange a time, and then I have several meetings on the ground, and I have a one-year visa, so I could go. But clearly, I want to go with appropriate conditions. And he said that they first want to continue with the interrogations of the people, especially with Aung San Suu Kyi. She is now charged or to have violated the communication law because she imported walkie-talkies, but also she was now charged for a violation of national disaster law. Yeah. I heard today that she will have a next court hearing on the 1st of March. So the answer from him was that they want to first have those interrogations, and then I should come later. But I pushed to go as quickly as possible because it seems that I'm the breach between all stakeholders.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, these are clearly trumped up charges. In the past, the military has launched brutal crackdowns on protesters, of course. Do you fear more violence to crush these protests?
Well, I think they are surprised about the huge support for the NLD government. And we don't have the same situation like in 1988. People have now social media. They are well organized and they are very determined to continue those protests, despite the laws who forbidding now those protests. So I hope that violence will not break out. We have also a factor which is quite important. We have around 21 ethnic armed organizations in the country, which told in a unity that they are against this coup, and they don't like to see violence on the street with Tamado, the army, who would use violence. So this is, I think, an important fact for the Tamado government to not use violence.
But I gather you said a heavy-handed response would meet with severe consequences. What would those severe consequences be?
Well, I see them going back to isolation because some countries already started to implement sanctions. Others will follow if they don't use now this window of opportunity where I can go and find out what is the situation, how we can deal in behind closed doors, what I did in the last 3 years. So if they don't take this chance, I'm sure that the member states of the UN will be hopefully united in a response and that they are collectively act to ensure that the human rights are protected for the people.
Right. So you've spoken to the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of Myanmar. Have you managed to speak to Aung San Suu Kyi?
No, unfortunately not. She's under house arrest. but clearly I would like to speak with her.
Yeah, and I mean, this is clearly an attempt to prevent her standing in any future election. Do you fear for her in the future?
Well, I fear that this can take a long time, which we really don't want to see. She already was in house arrest for 15 years, and nobody wants to go back in isolation and don't want to see innocent people under house arrest.
And did they promise there would be an election, even though it's likely that the world is going to think that that election will be a sham?
Yeah, they told me that they have a road map. The first is to have re-establishment of the Union Election Commission, which already started. And they want to continue with preventive measures for the COVID pandemic. And also they want to have a peace process with a national ceasefire agreement all over the country. And they want to have new elections in a year, they said.
OK, and just 30 seconds left. Do you believe the generals when they say that to you?
Well, I believe them because they normally have a clear plan and they stick normally to their plans. But new elections probably doesn't mean that all the parties are allowed to run. That's my guess.